I love this. I love that. But I switched up my platform and now I lost my intro. So here we go. We're just right here, full face forward. Dr.
Okay.
Ramin, welcome
All
to the
right.
show. Welcome to the show. Dr. Laurie Davis here today on a beautiful sunny day here in the Northwest. We're going to be able to sit out in the sun. It's going to be
Wonderful.
great. How are things in your neck of the woods, Dr.
It's a
Ramin?
beautiful day. It's a cool day, but
Right?
it's wonderful sunny day here too. So
Great,
yeah.
great. Well, you're a familiar face on the show, but we do have a lot of new clients and people who are very interested in what we're doing. So, in case you haven't met Dr. Ramin Modiri, I'd like to do a little bit of an introduction for our new faces out there and our new people. And Dr. Ramin and I have been friends now probably how long? 4 years, 3, 4 years,
Yeah,
going
let's
on five.
five.
And when I first met him, he came in as a client, and then we did some business together, and we've been connected ever since. And so it's always a pleasure to have you. And I just love to share and brag about you with the audience because you have been in the financial world for over 40 years. You have so many letters after your name, I lost count, and just a really great person all around, family man. Like you're just good looking and fun. And what else can I say? But
Keep going the whole show.
welcome to the. Oh, you're blushing now. Okay, that's good because red's our color today. All right, if you haven't noticed. So welcome to the show, Ramin, and thank you so much. And we've made a decision. We'll just let our audiences know because we have people watching already that we've made a decision because you and I used to do a show once a week
Yeah.
when we were very big into our shows, and we've had to relinquish some of that time because we have other projects that we're working on. And I said, why don't we just do a show once a month? And at least then our audience can have that to look forward to. So the last Thursday of the month, Ramin will be a regular co-host here and have the mic. So over to you. What are we going to talk about today?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Laurie. Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Yes. Well, I like to start with a little story, and what takes us to the subject I want to talk about. So every day I go for a walk, and in the afternoon, a few weeks ago, it was pretty hot and humid here. So I decided to leave it to the kind of evening time when it's a little cooler. So it was dark, and I went outside, and I thought I will do a short walk. And rather than putting my walking shoes, I decided to put my slides uh, sandals on, shorts, just comfortable. I'm walking for 30 minutes. Then, as I was walking, I noticed there was something shiny gliding next to my foot, right next to it. And I looked at it, and it was a bright color, probably about 3.5 feet snake, just nicely gliding by me. And I looked at it. I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I slowed down, I stopped because they go by vibration. So you don't want to do a sudden moves. You don't want to run because they get scared actually. And then I thought about that and I said, well, what if it was like a few years ago? How would I have reacted? I've come across snakes in the past, and that reminded me how we do things because of fear. And what is fear? And I know it's a major subject in my world, in financial world, but of course in our everyday life, from extreme fears to just a little fears, what is happening around our world right now. And as I mentioned, in my world with the investing and especially trading, it's a major thing. It's a very big psychological thing. So I thought this might be a good time to discuss what is fear, what is courage. Is courage like an anti-fear, lack of fear, or is it having courage spite of fear, and how we can overcome but understanding that we will never ever eliminate fear, so we just have to face it. So that's a subject I thought might be interesting, and I know you have a lot of great advice and experiences based on that. So I thought it would be a good synergy, discuss that. Again, I will approach it more from, again, from people who are in the investment world, especially in this volatile world that we are living right now, a lot of uncertainties, but also even more shorter term with this volatility in trading markets, whether you're doing oil market, whether doing stock market, currencies, gold, it all plays a role. So that's uh, just as a appetizer, starting what we could talk about. So
Sure.
that's a subject I thought might be interesting.
Well, I think it's very appropriate. And of course, we know that fear starts when we have a negative experience. So let's say a little kid is outside and they get bitten by a dog. Well, you didn't get bitten by that snake, but if you had of, it would have been a different story. But we learn fear, and it usually comes from a negative experience. But a lot of times we carry that fear into our adult world or into our other pieces of our life that really it doesn't even belong there. But because we had that initial negative experience or trauma, then what that does, it kind of manufactures an I can't belief system. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I can't pat a dog again. So we set up rules for ourselves based on that one fear. And fear can be passed down. You're a parent, so our children can inherit our fears. So if we have a fear of spiders, chances are our kids are afraid of spiders because we'll have imposed that fear. So we can learn it. Of course, some fear is good, like don't put your hands on a hot burner and don't step out in front of a vehicle or whatever. But usually, fear can also be a motivator. So it's kind of like there's a flip side to fear. It can be a good thing. It's kind of like anger. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I've made some of my best decisions when I was afraid. I've also made some of my best decisions when I was angry about something. So I know we all experience fear, but I think the important thing is if it's no longer appropriate, let it go. If it's no longer fearful or it happened in the past, let it go. It's like I'll say one more thing and then back to you. It's kind of like marriage. And I remember seeing an interview with beautiful actress Joan Collins. She was in Dynasty, and she had been married, quite a few times. And the interviewer said, "Well, would you get married again?" I think by then she'd been married 4 times. And the interviewer said, "Would you get married again?" "Oh, yes. I try anything 5 times before I say it's a bad idea." So, so in a very, she's passed away now, but there is also a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. And I love that book because that was my maiden name, Jeffers. So, but she has passed on since. But anyway, face the fear or feel the fear and do it anyway. So those are kind of my appetizing thoughts on fear.
No, that's brilliant because that takes me to this just mention about how fear it is learned and it can be manifested. And what happens, I see that a lot again in financial world, all the
Mhm.
decisions we make. And it's amazing. It doesn't have to do with the age. As a matter of fact, as we get older, a lot of these concepts are built on us or in us. So basically it carries on through our lifetime. And I can see that whether you're in your 30s, 40s, it gets worse in 50s and 60s because it has manifested itself. And I'd like to go back to what you just mentioned about children. It's amazing when you see a 2-year-old toddler is like patting a lion with no fear, or the child runs to the street, the cars are coming. Now, that's not courage, that's not being fearless. At that stage, the children's brain has not developed to understand. All they know is the security of their parents. And that's how important it is to have a stable environment for our really young children. And that's what they notice because they don't have any past history, they don't have any
Mhm.
experiences. And as you mentioned, around age 4 to 6, now we are developing. And I've had traders that they've had these fears because of they were bitten by a dog at age 3, for instance, or 3.5, that age, and they just carried all their lives. And it actually instills in them about trading, and they have that fear. So that's what happens. We say, oh, what a wonderful child. Look, be like that child because she or he is fearless. Well, no, because doesn't have any past. But fear is learned, like you just mentioned. um, there are, the fear is good because it saves us.
Mhm.
We have the amygdala in our, um, there's a almond size, neurons that in our temporal lobe, that what gives us, well, you don't negotiate with a bear, you don't come up with the skills
Oh.
of communication, you just hope that you're the second slowest runner. And so the
Mhm.
idea is those times you got to make a decision what you have to do, fight or fly. So it saves us. But
Mhm.
so fear is not, like you mentioned, is not bad all the time, and it is a very motivational thing. So it's interesting. I know you're very familiar with it. That now we are doing this show. It's amazing. Like as I get older, you think about death and you think about sickness, and death is like the seventh in the list of the biggest fears, like number seven of all the things. Number one is speaking. 41% of people are afraid to do public speaking. And
Mhm.
then number two, it's amazing, the height fear of heights is very popular. Insects and lizards and snakes, and the deep water. I
Mhm.
know people even dream about being drowned in the deep water. So those are much bigger fears than death. So it's amazing how, again, how we manifest things to ourselves. And once we do it, it's done. One thing I would say, and then I want to pass the ball to you, it's one of our favorite uh, speakers. I know you like Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar, when we think about fear, FEAR, there's Les Brown said, it's like the false evidence appearing real, but it's not always false. But it is something that there are times that we actually created because of that unknown. But Zig Ziglar said you can approach fear in two ways. You can forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So
Oh, I
that's
love
how
it.
we approach things. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of times we like to run away from our problems. Fear is not going to go away, it's how we face it. And that's again comes back into my world in financial world. We have to face uncertainties. I have to accept that when I walk into my trade, there is always a chance of losing that money. I have to accept that because I cannot see the future and I don't have any control over it. I cannot, I mean, today, right now, as we are talking, something could happen anytime, any place in the world. Now we are looking at the Middle East. I have no control, I have no knowledge of that. So if I don't have that control, how am I gonna avoid it, or how am I gonna besides not doing it? If I'm in it, I have to have my mechanics ready to combat that. But if I'm in it, I have no control. So I have to have again a system. So I cannot avoid it. So I have to accept it. The question is, how much of that I will accept, how far I like to go, and what are some of the, again, mechanics and the paths that we can take to make it easier to combat it. So again, the fear is not something is going to disappear. It's always there. How we deal with it is important. Back to you.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, if you're watching live, we have some live viewers right now. Please feel free to go to the comment section of wherever, and if your comment pops up, we'll post it here while we're talking. If you should have a question or something you need to share or you'd like to share, or just let us know that you're here because we don't know who you are. I just know there's people here because the number comes up, but I don't know who they are. So identify yourselves. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to identify yourself. Well, one of the things I know is that if we are not able to clean up, clear up, heal, it's not really the fear that we carry forward. It's the feelings that were attached to the fear. So let's say I got, bit by that dog, and maybe my mom wasn't there, and I didn't get taken care of right away, and my hand is bleeding, and whatever. Um, then that creates a lot of fear. Other than just the bite, it's the emotions that come in, and then I'm feeling alone, or I'm feeling isolated, or I'm feeling hurt, or I'm feeling disappointed, or whatever it is. So when you speak about your traders, you know, getting over that disappointment of losing something is really what they really need to focus on. I'm hearing you say. So there's only really five places that we are. If you boiled it all down, there's only five things we're afraid of, and the first one's the fear of change. And I know this to be true because I was a school teacher, and they hate change. I hated change. Everybody had to sit in their same chair in the staff room every day and drink out of the same coffee mug for decades, we're talking. And then the fear of failure. But the opposite of that, I don't really think people are afraid of failure because we know what that looks like, tastes like, smells like. But I know they're really afraid of success.
Yeah.
So what if this thing works out? What if this thing happens to, you know, go viral? If our show went viral today and all of a sudden we got a big call from one of the big networks, and what would we do? Well, we'd probably show up and go on the air, knowing you and I that we would do that. But and the other thing is the fear of rejection. And we all have that innate fear of being rejected because it happens in kindergarten. Little Johnny puts his hand up, answers the question, gets the wrong answer. Everybody in the classroom laughs, and the teacher gives him a strange look. And little Johnny's never going to put his hand up again. That's just the way it is. But the opposite of that is the fear of acceptance. What if everybody just thinks I'm the cat's meow and they just love me and they think I'm great? What am I going to do with that? So those are some of the reasons why, the main ones, everything will kind of boil down to that. And then that elicits some behaviors like procrastination and avoidance and paralyzation. And if we're acting like that, we're just going to have another negative experience. Back to you.
No, those are that's perfect because it's amazing how many of those apply when it
Yeah.
comes to the picture of investing and trading.
Hmm.
It's so for like again, the trading, you're working with real money and you're
Yeah.
competing really against yourself. So number one is, oh, I lose money. But the bigger picture is not even that, is the fear of, like you mentioned, is the failure. How am I going to explain this? That, oh, they say, well, I had people call me, oh, my son or my daughter started trading, and now everybody knows they're trading. Now, what if they know I didn't make any money? And in this world is, we equate when we are investing or when we are trading is when we actually close a trade. So now we actually have accepted, and that has become because of that, the consequence of that is we stay in a losing trade or investment for a long time. So let's say I know, it's almost like relationships. I know I'm in a wrong relationship, but I stay in because of the taboos, if there's expectations. Oh, I'm in a marriage, so I have to stay forever. Otherwise, they will say, oh, he or she failed in the marriage. The same thing in investing. So I know I'm in the wrong investments and I've only lost maybe 5% of my money. I can get that one back. But because I don't want to face my parents or my spouse or my friends to tell them, oh, I lost money. So I stand in and now I'm losing 50%, 60%. I still don't want to accept it just because of now I'm a failure. So the reality goes out the window. It becomes expectations, how to face. And it becomes again, are we honest with ourselves? Are we playing this, uh, feeding our minds and creating something that we are not? So, and the third thing, again, correctly you mentioned, is the success. What if I'm really successful? Like you just said, expectations. What if I made 100 trades and 99 was a winner? Or what if one was not a winner? Am I still successful? And then the other part is, uh, as far as I make a lot of profits, I'm afraid, what if it goes down and my profits go down? Where do we pull the trigger? And all of these, by the way, they have answers. Again, it comes and it goes back to my snake experience. That's how the experience is built. As long as it's correct way, it's like any sports. We practice. We have to have a system. We have to learn constantly, and we have to have the right mindset. As long as we have that, then we will be successful. But if you're doing things randomly, things like this sneak up on us. How about the other thing? What if you mentioned about success? How about if I make too much money? Oh, what's going to happen? And I've had encounters with some clients, and oh, if I make too much money, I'm going to have people asking me for money. So why don't invest too much or trade? Well, these are the lack of control. Again, that mindset has to be clear. And then there are other parts are, we are, in this social media world, we're always seeing what other people are doing, and the fear of missing out. Oh, if I don't get into this, I have that fear. If, oh, so and so, I heard you became multi-billionaire or a millionaire and I didn't. Oh, I'm going to jump on this. What is the hottest thing today? Or what is the opportunity? Without really doing any kind of investigation, research, being independent in our thoughts. And those are some of the things that we have found out that it stops us and gives us that fear of really totally going into, again, investing or trading. And again, the last thing is, of course, we don't know what's going to happen next. As long as we accept that, as long as we know that we don't know, and this happens to me, and this is for if we have any, our especially our trader out in the audience, is, as soon as I put a trade in, I'm assuming there is a, being mathematician, statistician, I know there's a 30% chance it's not going to work out. It's already in my head. I don't go in there and counting the dollars. I'm going in there knowing that there is a one-third chance, 30% chance that it's not going to work out. What am I going to do about that? As long as I have accepted that, then I have accepted that things can go wrong, and there's no fear. So fear, we have to accept it exists. We have to accept there's a chance of loss. Once we did that, it's a lot easier. And it goes back even death or sickness. It, Dr. Laurie, we've talked about this. In life, it's not the bad decision or the right or good decision. It's no decision. That indecision which eats us up, creates worries. It constantly, we become anxious. No, take the things, make a decision, and move on. And
Mhm. Yeah.
That's something is very important again in investing, but specifically in trading. So
Hmm. Well, I was thinking while you were talking, golly gee, I've been married 3 times. I didn't think to say to myself as I stepped into the first marriage, there's a 30% chance that this might not work out. I wish I'd had that number at the time. And the same with the second one. I should have said, there's a 50% chance this one isn't going to work out. Right.
right,
And you're right, because if we, relate it to life, we get married, we have our children. We know that's risky business because we don't know if it's going to work out. We don't know if the kids are going to be healthy. We're taking risks every day, and that we don't even think about, getting on a plane, getting in a car. And there's lots of risk involved. So when you're talking about risk in trading and in finance, there's risk in everything. But what is it that helps us to make that decision? Because you're right, when we're not deciding, we're stressed. And if I have to, a lot of people, especially people who've suffered or struggled with addictions, they tend to be impulsive.
right.
That's part of the behavior. So they may be cleaned up and no don't drink any longer, but they still may be impulsive. So because that's part of that personality. So yeah, it's all connected. And I guess in your world, our relationship with money is a big factor when it comes to investing or trading. What is that person's relationship with money? Most people that I encounter are afraid of it.
Right.
Would you agree with that? You see that all the time, probably.
Absolutely. And again, it's also the lack of education. It's the environment we are in. I live in a world that the material things are looked at as wonderful rewards. And so sometimes, again, we live in a consumer economy. So everything is, well, let's have the latest technology. Let's have the children, we buy their love rather than actually investing in their future with our love. So
Mhm.
a lot of times it's the immediate gratification over that delayed gratification. And those are the things that we see. One of the also interesting things, again, in the trading world and lesser degree in investing world is it's interesting that the very high intelligence doesn't equate to a successful when it comes to trading. Now, for
Mhm.
me, I want the smartest person to build that space, rocket space, uh, uh, airplanes. I want to make sure the smartest people are building the bridges. I don't want anything left for a chance. But when it comes to investing and trading, it's the game of probability. It's based on uncertainty. And the problem I've run into over 40, this is my 42nd year, and I've been in this world, is the smarter the people that I work with, the harder it has been to accept the risk because everything has to be given. We are living in a world of absolute in their world. And again, my background being in mathematics and probabilities, but when I look at mathematics, there's a lot of absolutes in there. But when we don't have control over that, and we don't have that psychology, which a lot of people forget, that in especially again in trading, psychology plays a huge role. Our mindset plays a huge role. You watch a YouTube, somebody reads a book, a social media showing people are making tons of money. Oh, come play, learn my system and it's going to work out. It doesn't, because that system, that strategy is only small portion. The technical knowledge is very important because it gives you confidence, but it's only a portion of it. And again, for somebody who's highly intelligent, cannot accept that there is a variability. There are variables that they have no control. So unfortunately, they do not succeed as much as someone who's lived, uh, that to come back to entrepreneurship, they have actually become street smart. And the big difference is they have mastered themselves, the emotional and psychological mastery. And that's the most important thing, again, especially when it comes to trading. Investing is a little more longer term, so there's a little more uh, skills involved in that, but still it's a decision we have to make. One of the biggest thing, the again obstacles I see, a lot of people, again, they see themselves and investing and trading as a lottery game. They think that they can get in and they're going to make lots of money. And risk management, and more importantly money management, position management, has never been thought. So you come in, you all, again, advertisements or commercial, you see, oh, how to make $10 to $1 million. I'm just exaggerating, but nobody says, well, how we can protect that 10 becomes 12 or 15 and 20. And it's great to make that money. Do you know when you can get out? What will be your exit? And all of these come to those three levels. You have to build the skills to give you confidence. You have to know what your risks are, management, but more importantly is the psychology, knowing yourself, knowing who you are. And I would just leave it at that. The last, as far as this segment is, I have I've been very fortunate to come across many successful traders that you never hear their names. But they are been very successful, and all of them have complained. They said, Ramin, I've tried to help people, I've mentored people, but unless I put my brain, all my experience in their head, as much as I tell them and teach them, unless psychologically they get in tune, nothing is going to work. So it will help a little, but nothing absolute will make them like who I am. Because each one of us are individual with different background and experiences in the past. And that again goes back to exactly what you said. When the dog bit you in the past, and it stays with you till you get rid of it, knowing that no, all the dogs are not bad. They're wonderful. Just because one dog bit you when you were 4 years old doesn't mean that you have to be afraid of dogs. And the same thing in investing. So,
Well, I liked your comments about being smart isn't necessarily enough. And again, I mean, we're collaborating today because you're doing like we always do. You're doing the financial side. I'm doing the soft side. But when I was in a dysfunctional relationship, I even said to myself, how did a smart woman like me get into a situation like this? You see? But at the end of the day, it had nothing to do with being smart. It had to do with my emotional immaturity
right.
and my instability. And emotionally, I wasn't smart. So I kind of was thinking about that as you were sharing. The smart guys aren't necessarily going to make the best traders if they make it all about that, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to be able to know how to respond to the setbacks, the losses, the disappointments, the trauma. And the stronger we get as an individual, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the better we are able to deal and cope with the losses, the setbacks, the trauma, whatever. Because in my work right now, people are the word trauma. I was traumatized. There's so much trauma, trauma, trauma. Well, guess what? There's more coming. It's not a thing of the past. It's the thing of the past because you're either were in a crisis, you're in one, and there's one coming down the road. So get ready, right? People are all tied up in, oh, my past trauma, and it's because of my past trauma. Well, you know what? acting like that is traumatic. So we need to just know not how to manage our trauma the same way we'd manage our money or manage our time or manage our household. We have to learn how to manage the trauma. Does that make sense? That's
Yeah,
just my
that
latest game. Like, really? Oh, it's all the trauma. Well, get used to it, man, because life is, uh, well, we know our ages. You're in your 60s, I'm in my 70s. Is the trauma over yet? No, it's probably just beginning, right?
that's right.
So we've got about 10 minutes left yet. So, what else did you want to share around the fear of, and as it relates to finance and investing and trading?
Uh, it is following up again what we were just talking about. That's why sometimes it's easier to work with, I don't want to say younger, but maybe a little novice in some ways, that like when I'm mentoring, they are more open-minded. And they all want guidance. And as long as they have a very good mentor, I mean, that's the key, right? The intent is the right, and the person is skilled in what they're doing, and they're guiding you the right way, they become much better traders than someone who's been, as I said, highly intelligent or very successful in other ways, but let's say uh, in a different career, and they come into this expecting that they should be, because they've succeeded. Let's say they were great athletes, so they can be great businessmen, or they were great engineers, so they would be great trader. Well, it doesn't work that way,
Mhm.
because what I have found out is they question everything, and they're
Mhm.
constantly looking for alternative. So they never really stick to a system or strategy or following the path. At least give it a little time.
Right.
So because of that impatience, they never really become successful in what they need to be, because they, first of all, they think they know it, they know everything. So they just need a little to go over a hump. And what happens is, as I mentioned, a surgeon doesn't become a surgeon overnight. It's all the practices, all the things I've done. And that's another misguidance as far as the philosophy of trading is, that there's this magic pill. No, it's not about magic. We have beginner's luck. Some people, all of a sudden, oh, it happened during COVID time, and these young kids were investing and trading and buying options and things, like become millionaires, and then they lost it all because it was not their life. And then what happened was not looking at the outcome as the right way. This is a process. It is something that they have to learn, that I want to learn the right way. Money will come after. The reward
Mhm.
will come after. And I go back to residency, and medical student, and then
Yes.
becomes doctor and surgeon, have to do so many things, so many surgeries to become very good at what they do. Overnight, if somebody gave you a degree and you became, a surgeon, well, I don't want them to do surgery on me. There's no way. But
No.
unfortunately, when it comes to trading, that's what all you hear. When it comes to, oh, overnight, yes, just follow this one rule. Well, no, you have to
Mhm.
practice, practice again. A great soccer player has been practicing. A great basketball player, like my era, is Larry Bird from Celtics, and Magic Johnson's of, Michael Jordan's of the. They would practice 3 or 4 hours shooting every day, and they were the best. But they always practice, because it is the process. So just because they know it all doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. So our brain is programmed. So we have to program our brain, like our muscles and thing else, to have this. It's like driving to learn. So finally it becomes automated. You can make a decisions, but you have to do it enough times to get there subconsciously, rather than thinking there's this magic pill and there's a
Mhm.
holy grail, and you're gonna overnight going to become very successful. You got to pay the price. So I think that's
Absolutely. And that reminds me that when you were talking about wanting to mentor, people to, the thing is, if somebody's not coachable, regardless of who they are or where they are, and I just met this most beautiful young man. I think he might be even watching today. He was going to try and catch the show. But I met this beautiful young man who wants to have a business in the media field, and I want to mentor him because if you have a good mentor, it saves you time, it saves you money, keeps you from making the mistakes. And I can't work with anybody that's not coachable.
no.
It's really tough because they want to challenge you. I've had people come into our business, years ago, and they wanted to just change the whole workbook. And I said, no, 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 it's not happening. So, and thus 32 years later, we're still delivering the same product more frequently than ever because it's more needed now than ever, right? So, and I guess I did my practicing by getting married 3 times. It's kind of like a house. You have to build three before you get your dream home, right? So, you know, um, but I'm like Joan Collins. I'll try anything 5 times before I say it's a bad idea, right? So yeah, it's practice. It's like learning a new instrument, learning a new sport, learning anything new. Look at all the practice that you and I had online doing our show, because today we're pretty much doing this show without scripts. Like people probably think we're reading telemonitors or something, and we're not. We don't have any scripts. I don't have any notes. I didn't know what I was going to say today, but I knew it would be applicable because of our experience. You're sharing information from your years of experience. I'm sharing. Our audience right now is getting almost 100 years of experience here. As a matter of fact, even more of experience on this presentation, this show, over 100 years of experience you and I have, and not costing anybody anything but a little time. Who wouldn't want to listen to that? Well, if you're not coachable, you probably won't. So good luck with that, right? But we have people listening here today because they're coachable. They want to hear and learn new things and what's going on here, right? So we have about 3 minutes, and the final mic is yours. So over to you for words of encouragement around the topic of fear.
No, it's first of all, it's always pleasure to be here. I'm so glad we are together again in this show. Um, as I mentioned, fear is something we've had it since we were born. The
Mhm.
baby comes to a new world. From this dark world comes to this lightness, and then doesn't know where it is. And we've had it till we die. So we have to accept it. It is something, it's part of our lives, but also makes it exciting, that unknown. I mean, the way I make money in trading is not just having a steady road, flat road that everybody sees everything and so nobody gets rewarded for it. It's that volatility that makes it exciting. That's how we can make money in the trading world. So uncertainty is not bad. Not knowing what's going to happen next, it might be feeling a little anxiety, but also it could be rewarding just because we don't know. We want to grow, we want to be our best. So fear is, like you mentioned, it's more, could be very motivational. Fear also saves us, as I mentioned. It's like our brain is programmed to save us. When we this gut feeling we have, a lot of times it does save us from wrong decisions or things that we shouldn't have done. So basically, it is something part of our life. But if we have the experience to combat, like I mentioned about our snake story, I was not concerned. Maybe if it was the first time, I might have jumped and the, the snake would have reacted. But because I had a little knowledge, I had a little experience, I was okay with that. And life is like that. So that's why knowledge is also important. We want to learn about new things constantly. Every day we learn things. So, and I go back again. It's the fear itself is not the problem. It's how we approach it and how we combat it. And the courage, again, as I mentioned, it's not the lack of fear. It's having that courage in spite of that fear and going forward. And once we accepted that, life becomes a lot easier. We can have a lot
Sure
easier
does.
sleeps. So, um, but anyway, it's again wonderful to be here, and look forward to our next next
Our
show.
next time,
Yeah,
right. So for our viewers, thank you for being here today. I see we've had some live viewers, and we're streaming also right now on my Facebook page, Laurie Davis, and also on YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host. Please just go in, subscribe, share the show. I'm sure that our topic today on fear, there's not a person out there that couldn't connect to that. So please feel free to share the show. So we'll just say goodbye for now, and we'll see you again next month, Dr. Ramin. Thank you for
yeah.
being here.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye bye.